Hello and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short video. My name is Samantha Garrett and I'm one of the product specialists here at Pegasus Software. And over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to show you how Opera 3 notification services and the task scheduler can be used and the advantages they can bring to Opera 3 users. Within System Manager, you'll notice we have a scheduling menu, and as you can see here, is made up of 4 elements. So first we have a messaging service. This allows us to create messages to be distributed to Opera 3 users. Moving down the list, next we have the shutdown service. This allows us to automatically shut down groups of users or individual users with the added ability of specifying a lockout period. Next we have the task scheduler. This allows us to set up a number of tasks as timed events to automatically occur at specific dates and times. And then down at the bottom of the list we have a calendar. This allows us to view any messages, shutdowns and lockouts that have been scheduled using notification services. So to start with, let's have a look at the task scheduler. Imagine being able to schedule a number of tasks to automatically occur outside of office hours at a time that's more convenient to you and other Opera 3 users. Well, that's exactly what the task scheduler allows us to do. It provides the perfect solution for scheduling monthly tasks such as a nominal or sales period end, or daily tasks such as a backup, which is a routine task that needs to be run every night. So let's create a new task, and as you can see there's a number of tasks that we can schedule. From a system point of view, we can schedule an update data structures, a backup and a tidy of the system. From a period end point of view, we can schedule a nominal, sales and a purchase period end. And from a nominal point of view, we can also schedule a rebuild of the periods and a rebuild of the transaction history. We can also schedule repeat invoices to be executed in this way, which we'll come on to shortly. Okay, so let's say that we want to schedule a backup of my Opera 3. So we'll give it a task name of, say, daily backup and a description, Opera 3. I do need to pop in my Windows authentication password. And when would we like this task to occur? Well, I'm going to say I'd like to schedule my backup to run specific days of the week at, let's say, 6 o'clock in the evening, Monday through to Friday. I only have one company within my demo data, so I'm going to choose to please back up Orion Vehicles Leasing. And I can also select which files it is I would like to be included in the backup. This time, I'm going to select all files. So let's save that away. And there we can see I have a backup of my Opera 3 that's been set up and scheduled to occur at 6 PM Monday through to Friday. I can happily go home, come back into work in the morning, and I'll be able to right click and easily view my last run details and also view the history. The advantage that this brings is that we can schedule backups to occur outside normal working hours. People don't need to be around to start this backup off, and it doesn't disrupt anybody else's processing during the working day. So what about scheduling repeat invoices? Let's say that instead of staying late on Friday night to run this process through, I want to schedule this task to run automatically outside of office hours using the scheduler. Now, instead of creating the task as we've done here, we're actually going to go into supply chain and create the task from there. So let's close down out of the scheduler and we're going to go into supply chain management, into sales order processing, and we're going to pick up repeat invoicing. Notice that we have a new tick box available, Use Scheduler. I'm going to tick this box and we'll say OK. If I so wish, I can choose to override accounts over their credit limit, override accounts on stop, and I can also choose to auto-fulfill traceable stock items. I'm going to say OK. We'll send it to file, so we'll give it a file name of, let's say, September 2011, and we'll give it a description of invoices. We'll hit publish. Now it's asking me, do I actually want to schedule the task right now myself? I can only do this if I have the task scheduler installed and I have access to it. So if that's not the case, perhaps I want to say no, and then I can enter a message to send to the nominated administrators to come in, complete and activate the task for me. However, this time I'm going to say yes, I'd like to schedule the task now myself. We'll say OK. And now we're presented with the new task form. Notice that it's created the task name for me, a repeat invoice. It's automatically popped in my Windows authentication password because it saved it previously. And all I need to do is specify the date and time that I would like this task to occur. I'm going to leave it at today's date, but I'm actually going to say I'd like it to kick off at 11 o'clock this evening. Notice that if for whatever reason an invoice posting fails, I can choose from the two options. So if an invoice fails to post, do I want the process to be completely aborted, in which case I'll select stop processing, or do I want it to continue processing, in which case I will select attempt to post the next invoice. If any errors do occur after the task is completed, I'll be able to view the last run details and history, which will detail any of the problems that occurred. So let's click Save, and there we can see the task that we've just created. Opera 3's Task Scheduler is a huge step forward into automating very necessary but important processes that can often impact heavily on other areas of the business. So let's move on to notification services, and the first area we're going to look at is the messaging service. So we're going to close the Task Scheduler down, we'll go back into scheduling, but this time we're going to pick up messaging. This service allows us to create messages to be distributed to groups of users or individual users, and could be about any subject, possibly more likely related to Opera 3 functions. So for instance, let's assume that we're going to be doing a stock take this weekend and we want to create a message to tell users not to come in on Saturday. So let's create a new message. We'll give it a title, so we'll say stock take this weekend. We can specify the date and time that we want this message to be distributed. So perhaps I'm going to send this message at 9 o'clock in the morning. Am I going to send it once? Or perhaps I'm going to send it daily, in which case I can then enter the repeat frequency. So for example, if today's currently Tuesday, then I may want to enter 3 to ensure that the message is sent Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. Or perhaps I want to send this message weekly, in which case I can select the days of the week. Or maybe I want to send this message monthly, in which case I can either select the individual dates of the month or perhaps the individual days. So as an example, I might want to send this message the last Friday or perhaps the first Monday of the month. In my example, I'm going to send it daily for the next 3 days. When does this message expire? So how long is the message valid for? Well, it might be that we're sending this message relating to perhaps a lunchtime backup that we want to run at 1 o'clock. So if we set this message to say distribute at 11 o'clock and the backup will be finished before 2 p.m, then we only want this message to be valid for those 3 hours, in which case users logging into the system after 2 o'clock will not get this particular message. We can add in the full message details, so let's say stock take this weekend. Please do not come into the office because it will be closed. If we save the message away, we can then define the distribution list. So who do I want to send this message to? So we could select individual users, or we can select groups of users. So for example, if I'm creating a message that's only relevant to the sales team, then perhaps I'll only distribute it around to the sales team. In my example, I'm going to send it to everybody. From the action menu, we can also select multiple Opera 3 companies that perhaps we might want to distribute the message around to. And we also have access to a calendar, which displays to us in bold the dates that this message is due to be sent. If we go back onto the General tab, we can preview the message. So we can see how the message will appear to Opera 3 recipients, and we can expand the message out to view the full details. If we pop over into Excel, you'll notice that I can still see the message. So as long as the user is logged into Opera 3, they'll have the Opera 3 icon running within the system tray. This means that they will receive any active messages even if they're working in a different application. We can also use the Opera 3 icon to view any current, previous or pending messages. You'll notice at the top of the form we have an active flag. so I can define whether this is an inactive message or an active message. So perhaps if it's a recurring message but it's not valid for a specific week, I can simply untick the active flag and then reinstate it as and when required. So let's close that message down and let's have a look at the next area of notification services. So we're going to go back into scheduling, but this time we're going to pick up the shutdown. This service allows us to not only log users out of the system automatically, but we can also specify a lockout period, which can be particularly useful if we need to run exclusive processes such as a backup. So let's create a new shutdown and we'll give it a title. We'll say shutdown daily backup. Again, I can specify the frequency, the date and time that I wish this shutdown to occur. I'm going to say I'd like the shutdown to occur once at 1 PM today. Now, as well as actually logging users out of the system, I also want to ensure that nobody logs into Opera 3 before the backup has completed. So I'm going to specify a lockout period for, let's say, 1 hour, in which case users will not be able to log back into Opera 3 until 1 hour has passed. I can add in a further detailed message to be distributed round to users to warn them. So let's say backup 1 PM. Please log out before, otherwise the system will log you out. Now we need to ensure that we give users enough warning that this shutdown is going to happen. So we can specify up to 3 warning messages to alert users prior to shutdown. I would like the first message to be distributed round to users, let's say 1 hour prior to shutdown. Then in addition to this, we can also predefine 2 system generated messages within system preferences. I have defined that I'd like the first of the system warning messages to be distributed 30 minutes prior to shutdown, and then the final system generated message to be distributed 15 minutes prior to shutdown. You'll see these messages working shortly. Again, as similar to the message, we can define whether this shutdown is active or inactive. And I can also define, using the radio buttons here, whether this is a shutdown and a lockout, or perhaps purely just a lockout only. So let's save this shutdown away. And as with the message, we can also define a distribution list and the companies that we wish to schedule this shutdown for. Because I'm doing a backup, I'm going to say that I'd like to log everybody out of Opera 3. However, if this was related to running perhaps a nominal period end, then I might only want to log out the finance team. We also have access to the calendar, so we can see when this shutdown has been scheduled for. So let's close this shutdown down, and now we wait for the 3 warning messages to appear. And there we can see the first message 1 hour prior to shutdown, and we can expand the message to see the full details. Next we can see the first of the system generated messages that I have specified to be 30 minutes prior to shutdown. Notice that the icon has changed. So we can see the severity changing, warning us that this shutdown is going to happen imminently. And then we have the last of the system generated messages, which I have scheduled to appear 15 minutes prior to shutdown. Notice the red symbol with a white cross. So we've had 3 different levels of severity, which is making it clear to users that it is imperative that you close your work and log out of the system, otherwise you will be logged off automatically. And there you can see we have been automatically logged out of Opera 3. So if we try and log back in as manager, it warns me, you cannot log back in. The system is locked until this specified date and time. In our example, we have set this lockout period to be 1 hour. However, if I try to log back in as admin, for the first 2 minutes I will also be locked out of the system as there is a 2-minute polling timer. However, after the first 2 minutes has passed, the administrator can log back in and can go back into the shutdown, untick the active flag, in which case all users will be able to log back into Opera 3. So let's look at the final part of notification services, which is the calendar. So we're going to go back into scheduling, but this time we're going to pick up the calendar. The calendar displays any messages, shutdowns and lockouts that have been scheduled within Opera 3. It includes both future and historical events, but by default only active messages are displayed. However, if we tick on the Include Inactive Messages tick box, we can view all records that are not currently active. And as you can see, there's the shutdown that we scheduled today at 1 o'clock that we marked as inactive. We can clearly see the days on the calendar highlighted in bold that messages, shutdowns and lockouts may have been planned for. So using this calendar we can clearly see other messages that are planned, what they are regarding and any other shutdowns and lockouts that are also planned. This means that we can ensure that our particular message will not be overlooked by other messages that are perhaps scheduled at a similar time. And we can therefore intelligently plan our messages and shutdowns at a convenient time that does not cross over with others that may have already been scheduled. So to conclude, the task scheduler allows us to set up daily tasks such as a backup or monthly tasks such as a sales or purchase or nominal period end to occur outside of office hours, which allows our staff to carry out their normal day-to-day processing without these interruptions. The use of notification services allows us to send messages to Opera 3 users. It also enables us to forcibly log Opera 3 users out of the system and restrict them from logging back in to allow us to perform processes that may require exclusive access. All of these useful features are there to help manage the Opera 3 system in a busy multi-user environment. Thank you for taking the time to watch this short video. For further information, please contact a Pegasus partner or visit pegasus.co.uk.